Hello class, today we are taking a look at some of our basic questions for the combined percents and problem solving exam. So in question 1 and 2, we know that we still need to convert our percents into real decimals because anytime we are calculating involving a percent, we need to convert that percent to a decimal. And the key thing to remember, of course, is that percent means out of or divided by 100. So when we have our 462%, it's really 462 out of or divided by 100. And we can use our calculators to figure out the correct decimal there. Just take your 462 divided by 100, and we get our correct decimal of 4.62. Likewise, if we have our 0.3%, we're going to take our 0.3. We'll put it out of or divided by 100. We can use our calculators to get our correct decimal. So we'll say our 0.3 divided by 100 gives us our 0.003 as our correct decimal. So of course, any percent that we have, we can replace the percent sign with our out of 100 and use our calculators to actually do that division. Question 3 and 4 deal with our basic percent of questions. So here we don't have any mention of increase, decrease, or change. So this is just where we want to convert or translate our words into symbols. So the word what translates into our unknown is translates into equals. 140 is just 140. Percent means out of 100. Of means multiply, and 85 is just 85. We want to check that our unknown is by itself on one side of the equal sign, and in this case, the unknown is the only thing to the left of the equal sign, which means we just calculate the other side normally. So let's do our calculation. We're going to do our 140 divided by 100 to get our decimal, which is 1.4. And we need to finish up by multiplying that by 85. So I'll times that by 85, and I'll get that my unknown is 119. Same type of thing in question 4. So we're going to translate the word what into a question mark, is into equals. My 0.35 is just 0.35. Percent means divided by 100. Of means multiply, and 70 is just 70. Again, we'll check that our unknown is the only thing to the left of the equal sign, and in this case it is. So we'll just do our calculation on the right side. My 0.35 divided by 100 gives me this decimal here. I need to multiply that by 70 to get 0.245. Now, question 5 does have the word increase. And whenever we're dealing with an increase or decrease where we know what we're increasing or decreasing by, what percent we're increasing or decreasing by, we want to use the setup that our end is some percent of the start. And to fill in the blank, the first thing that we want to recognize is that an increase will be adding to 100. So we'll say our end is 120% of the start by adding 120 to get 120. Now in this case, they're asking us what is the result. So we don't know our end number. Is means equals, 120% is 1.2 as a decimal. Of means multiply, and then my starting number is 30. 30 is increased. We're starting at 30 and we're increasing from it. Again, our question mark is isolated on the left side of the equals, so we'll just do our calculation of 1.2 times 30. That gives us 36 as our answer. Let's take a look at number 6. Again, we have decreased by some percent, where we know the percent. So we'll use our setup that the end is some percent of the start. Now in the case of a decrease, we're going to be subtracting from 100. So 100 take away 30 is 70%, and our end will be 70% of the start. Now again, in this case, we don't know what the result is, so our end value is unknown. Is means equals, 70% is 70 out of 100, which is 0.7 as a decimal. Of is times, and my start number is 900. Again, our question mark is isolated, so let's go ahead and just calculate the right side. 0.7 times our 900, and we'll get our 630. In question 7, we again have an increase, and we know what percent we're increasing by. So we'll set up our same end is blank percent of start. Now, since we're increasing, we're going to be adding to 100. And so we'll say after a 250% increase, we have 350% of the start. Now again, we don't know what the result is. They say the result is blank, and so our end is our unknown. Is means equals. 350% is 350 out of 100, which is going to be 3.50 as a decimal, which is just 3.5 of his times, and my start number is 8. So I'll do my calculation of 3.5 times 8, and that gives me my 28. Now in question 8, we're no longer dealing with an increase or decrease. They're asking us what is the percent change from 350 to 420. And of course, neither of these numbers are a percent. There's no percent sign on them. So when we're dealing with our percent change formula, we want to go ahead and apply our, formula. Our formula from our notes is that percent change is equal to our end minus our start, divided by start, and then times 100. Now remember that whatever you are coming from is going to be your starting number. So just like when you're traveling from Edmonton to Calgary, you're starting at Edmonton, you're going to Calgary. Okay, when we're coming from 350, 350 is that starting number. So it's going to go in the kind of right and bottom of this fraction. What we're going to is our end number. So in this case, that's 420. We need to multiply that by 100. So to do this calculation, let's start with a fraction. We need to evaluate the top first. So I'll do 420 minus my 350. That gives me 70 as the top number. My fraction means to divide, so I'm going to divide that 70 by my 350 on the bottom. And that gives me the decimal 0.2. I need to finish up by multiplying that by 100 from my formula. And this gives me my 20%. Now, since it is positive, we can say that this is an increase, which makes sense because we went up from 350 to 420. Take a look at question 9. We have when blank is increased by 20%, the result is 156. So again, this is an increase or decrease where we know the percent. We're going to use our setup that end is some percent of start. And again, with an increase of 20%, we're going to go ahead and say, well, we have 100 plus our increase of 20 gives us 120% of start. Now, we need to fill in our 156, and 156 is the result, or the end number. So we need to make sure it goes in its correct spot of the equation. Now, 120% is 1.2 as a decimal, and it's the start number that I don't know here. I don't know what I'm starting with and increasing by 20. In this case, now, our issue with this equation that we've made is that our unknown, question mark here, is not the only thing on its side of the equal sign. And when our unknown is not by itself, we need to isolate it by undoing whatever's been done to it. So right now our question mark is being multiplied by 1.2. And to get our question mark by itself, we need to cancel out or undo that multiplication by 1.2. So we ask ourselves, what's the opposite of multiplying by 1.2? And it is dividing by 1.2. And to keep things fair in an equation, I have to do the same thing to both sides. So since I divided by 1.2 on the right side, I have to do that to the left side as well. And this is the calculation I need to complete to find my unknown. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my 156 divided by my 1.2, and that gives me my answer of 130 is the value of my question mark. Take a look at number 10. Again, this is similar to question 9, where we don't know that start value, but we do know the end value. The only difference in question 10 is that we're decreasing, so of course we'll be subtracting that 20% from 100. And then we can say our end value is our 80%, it will turn out to be, of our start. And I'll fill in that 80. Now again, our result is 72, so we know our end number is 72, and that equals our 0.8 as a decimal times our unknown starting value. Just like in our previous question, I need to solve this equation to get my question mark by itself on the right side. So I'm going to cancel out this multiplication by 0.8 by dividing by 0.8, and I'll keep things fair by doing the same thing to the other side. Calculation I need to do is 72 divided by, 0.8, which is 90. And that will be the value of my unknown. Question 11, we have what is 2% of 102% of 60? Again, there's no talk of change or increase or decrease here, but this is a percent of a percent question. And just like up above in, question 3 and 4, our word of just means multiply. So we're going to translate that what translates to question mark is translates to equals. 2% would be 2 out of 100, of would be multiply. 102% would be 102 out of 100, of means multiply, and 64 is just 64. Our question mark is by itself to the left of the equal sign, so we'll convert everything to a decimal and then multiply it all together. 2 out of 100 is 0.02. 102 out of 100 is 1.02, and then our 64. So let's do that calculation. 0.02 times our 1.02 times our 64 gives me 1.3056 as the value of my unknown. In question 12, again, we have no talk of increase, decrease, change, final price, anything here. So we're just going to go ahead and translate this into an equation. 90 is just 90, is translates to equals. What is our question mark? Percent translates to out of 100, of means multiply, and 24 is just 24. Now again, our question mark here is not by itself to the right of the equal sign. There's two other things there with it. Division by 100 and multiplication by 24. So we're going to go ahead and undo those things. I'm going to choose to start by dividing both sides by 24 to cancel out this multiplication on the right side. And I'm going to write that as a fraction. And then I need to finish up by undoing the division by 100. I'm going to undo that division by 100 by multiplying by 100 on both sides. And that'll give me my question mark. And the calculation I need to do is 90 times my 100 divided by my 24. And that gives me my 375. Now keep in mind I was finding what percent. So this is 375%. On the back side, just one more of our basic questions. So again, no talk of increase, decrease, or change here. So we'll just translate it. 54 is just 54, is means equals, 120% is 1.2 as a decimal, of means multiply, and my unknown is over here. So I'll finish up by solving for my question mark, and I need to undo the times 1.2 that is with it on the right side of the equal sign. So the opposite of multiplying by 1.2 is dividing by 1.2. Of course, I'll keep things fair by doing that to both sides of the equal sign. The calculation I need to do is 54 divided by 1.2. Oops, that's just divided by 1. Let's divide that by 1.2, which gives me 45 as the value of my question mark. Okay, in question 14, a basic finding the error question, we want to look for where we have our problem. It says Homer did this calculation to find the sale price of a $50 item after a 35% discount. And Homer did 0.35 times 50 and got the answer 17.5. Now our issues are 0.35 here. When we have our 35% discount, that is equal to a 35% decrease. Now a 35% decrease is equal to 100% that we start with, subtract our 35%, which should give us our 65% remaining. And so the 0.35 should be 0.65. Okay, question 14. Gavin's walking goal was 8,000 steps. If Gavin increased their goal by 12%, what is their new goal? So again, we're talking about an increase and we know the percent. So we're going to go ahead and use our end is blank percent of start. And in this case, with our increase, we're going to say that this is 112%. Obviously, 100 increased by 12. Now our question is the 8,000, is that the end or is that the start? So it says Gavin's walking goal was 8,000 steps. They increased it. What is their new goal? So our 8,000 is going to be our starting point, and we've increased that by 12%, which gives us 112% of that 8,000. I've just converted that statement into an equation, so just replacing start with 8,000 of with times. My 112% is 1.12 as a decimal, and translates to equals. And since my question mark is by itself on the left side of the equation, let's do the calculation on the right side. So we'll do our 1.12 times our 8,000. We get 8,960. And we'll answer the question and say Gavin's new walking goal is 8,960 steps. Question 15, we want the final cost of a sweater that costs $55 if you buy it in a province with a GST of 5% plus PST of 7%. So in this question, we know that our final price will be equal to some percent of the sale price. And in this case, there's no talk of discount or anything, so that of our sale price will just be times our $55. Of course, we know our zeros on the end make no difference there, so $55 is really just 55. Okay. Now, for a percent here, we have 100% for the product. We're increasing that by 5% for GST, and we're increasing that by 7% for PST. So overall, we're going to have 112% from our 100 plus 5 plus 7. And 112% is 1.12 as a decimal. So let's go ahead and multiply that out to find our final price. We'll do our 1.12 times our 55. We're going to get 61.6. Now we want to answer the question, and remember this is money. So we'll say the final cost, if we said final price, that's fine, is $6160. Money always has two decimal places. Okay, question 16. Football team gained 440 yards in September. In October, they gained 506 yards. We want to know what is the percent change from September to October. So they're asking us for percent change. We're going to apply our percent change formula. Our percent change is our end minus our start over our start times 100. Of course, October is going to be my end value. September is earlier. It's my start. So let's do this calculation. We're going to do our 506 minus our 440 on top. That gives us 66. We need to divide that. Oops. So 66 from the top divided by 440 on the bottom. And then multiply that by 100. And of course, we're going to get a 15% change. Really, since it's positive, we'll say a 15% increase. So we'll say the team increased their gained yards by 15%. Obviously, if we got a negative there, we would be in a decrease. Final one is a commission question. So it tells us that we earn $35 plus an additional 8% of our sales, or of our ice cream. So our $35 is just 35. Our 8% is going to be 0.08. Of means times. They told me they sold $740 of ice cream, and that'll be my ice cream amount. So let's do our calculations. Our 35 is just 35. We need to do 0.08 times our 740 for our ice cream, and that is 59.2. Of course, for dollars, that would be 20. And we'll finish up by adding our $35 base pay, and we'll say they earned $94.20. So I hope that has helped you with some of those basic questions that you should be able to complete on your combined percents exam.